Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bookcraft, conversations from every side of the story. I'm your host, Colleen, a debut author and a serial entrepreneur. I wear many hats out in the world. Before our official season of Bookcraft gets started, I thought since it is the end of 2025, we're in that in-between stage where we're eating leftovers. We really don't know what day it is anymore, and that's okay. I thought I would do a little episode just to kind of talk a bit about what Bookcraft is going to be and what it is not going to be as a podcast, why I decided that there was a need for this podcast, space for this podcast out there. So, Bookcraft is a pause. The book world, book culture, Bookstagram, Book Talk, all of these places have gotten very busy. And so what I wanted for this podcast was, this isn't going to be about rankings. We're not going to be doing takedowns and hot takes and, this book is worth reading. This book is not worth reading. We're not going to be doing any of this. We're going to be looking at engagement over judgment, over, preferences. You can have books that you don't like, but not liking them, you need to be able to articulate why you don't like them. You could have books that you love. Maybe you don't have the words to say why you love them. So we're going to be, growing together on this podcast. We're going to have readers and we're going to have authors. We're going to have readers and authors together so they get a chance to talk. We're going to get some publishers on here, and it's just all about looking at a place to slow down, talk about books, how they're made by the author, the publisher, how you enjoy them as the reader, and all of the things that go into books. I wanted to also kind of do a bit of a reframe here, and as I'm thinking about some of the things as we reach the end of 2025 and I start to look at some of the book trends that are out there, I think there's been a lot of trends, and I don't know if it's just this year or not, but these trends are built on reaction. Doing the, post that's inflammatory, that's a rant, that's, going to take down an author, a reader, a book, or whatever it is. And I want to start looking at reframing that to reflection. Again, if there's books out there that you don't like, that's totally fine. There's lots of books that I read this year that were not for me. And as I look through the book community, I see a lot of people that those books were for. People love them. And so what is it that I didn't enjoy about the book that somebody else loved about the book? I have some trends, and I'm going to say this. I really would like for these trends to stay in 2025. Some of these trends are extremely harmful. Some of these trends are making it so that authors are at the point where they don't know if they want to keep writing. They're scared to write. They're worried that their artistic voice, representation, any of these things are going to be seen as negative. And again, for some people, the way that a book comes across, the way that a book is written. I've seen some people talk about a book recently. Oh my gosh, which book was it? There was no chapters. It was just one long book. And I know for me personally, if I picked that book up, I wouldn't enjoy that book. That book could have been the most beautifully written book ever. But I kind of live for chapters. It's an endpoint to your evening reading. It's, where you get to start again. When your bookmark falls out, you go, oh, I was on chapter 4, and so, there's some things where something like that, which is just something I would never do in the books that I'm writing, but somebody did, and they thought it was a good idea. And some people love it, and other people are like, I don't like that at all. So there's a way that we can speak about these things. And I actually have quite a few notes written down about this today because I wanted to be thoughtful about this. And I also want to kind of call attention to some of these things that are really not constructive. So one of them is influencers. Hello, influencers. Hello, all the influencers out there. Y'all need to remember your readers. And you used to have no audience. You were a person that was on Bookstagram or Book Talk or BookTube, and you had your mom and your sister and your friend following you. And you got on there and you did your videos about books. Now we have influencers that are bringing in book hauls of hundreds of books at a time. It's mass overconsumption, first of all. You're not reading all of those books. Those books could have went to other people that would have probably enjoyed them, but these influencers are now crushing readerships. They are getting onto their platform and being like, well, if you liked this book, and then attaching all of the negative connotations. So maybe there's a really popular book out there that readers are absolutely loving, but they didn't like it. So if you liked it, you're less than, you're not as good. Are you even a reader? Are you educated? It's this kind of weird trend, but they're also crushing authors. And I'm not even kidding about this. There are some influencers that put up the snarky, sarcastic video, and then their followers pile onto an author. I just saw recently that Goodreads is changing one of their things so that if an author has a book in pre-order, people can't do the pile on and give it all 1-star reviews because the influencer they were following that got an actual advanced reader copy didn't like it. They've told all their readership they don't like it, and so now people all go and they all give it 1 stars before the book has even come out. This poor book is destined to fail. The pile-on needs to stop. Influencers, you've got to remember that you have this platform and you are encouraging your followers to tag authors in posts, to call authors out. It's, you got to stop. I recently saw, she's a very big influencer, and I actually think I'm going to have to stop following her. There's a beautiful Christmas novella that came out a couple years ago. Absolutely stunning, a beautiful story. And in the most, what is even the word I want to use for this? It was so distasteful what she posted and dismissive of the book. It was like, I don't know why this author bothered to write a book. I couldn't follow it. It was just dumb, poorly written. And why does anybody even like this book? And I was sitting there going, oh, okay. The book was a historically accurate book about a time in the 70s in a country. I'm not going to give you much more detail than that because you'll be able to figure out who I'm talking about. And again, I don't want you to go pile on her because that's not the point of this. But all of her readers that follow her did a pile on to her post. Oh, I hate that book too. Oh, I couldn't understand that book. Oh, I don't know why she wrote that book either. And it was like little parrots in the comments just mimicking what she had said. And I was like, oh, wow. That's interesting. So the influencer crushing readership, crushing authors, I would like this to stop for 2025. Do you remember your mom saying, if you don't have something nice, don't say anything at all? Let's maybe go back to that. The other one that kind of ties in is the worst book I've read trend. And I saw somebody posting about it the other day and I was like, oh, what the heck is this? And then it came up in my feed today. So this is where so-and-so gets on their book platform and says, I hated this book. And they just go on a rant of why they hated this book. The worst book I read this year. Here's what this does. This encourages more cruelty. This is rewarding people for just dunking this book into the trash and being like, I don't like it. And it kind of punches down. Like, why are you doing this? If you genuinely didn't like a book, I get it. Again, I've lots of books this year I did not enjoy. I don't post about them though. I just move on. And here's the thing, you can also move on. So instead of creating reels and stories and shorts and whatever else you're creating with the worst book I read, just move on. You don't need to take somebody's work and make it the punchline of your content and potentially ruin their career or ruin that book. Because a lot of people will then go and rate that book low because their favorite person on the internet didn't like it. Another thing that's kind of making me really crazy is the performative book stack. This is where you have the person that has the stack of 10, 20, 30 books. They can barely hold on to the books. They don't show you the book. They don't show you the cover. They don't tell you the author. They don't write it in the description. It's like just vibes. Here's all these books. And if you want to be the best romance reader, the best fantasy reader, the best sci-fi reader, you'll read these books. Oops. Sorry for anybody that's watching and be like, what just happened on your camera? My notes just fell to the side. Don't worry about it. But these performative stacks, if you want to actually tell me about a book and you've got a stack of books that you want to tell me about, please show me the book. I don't want this 3 to 4 minutes of you talking, holding this giant stack of books. First of all, are your arms sore? Because my arms are sore watching you. But it's just this endless stack after stack after stack. And there are some people in the book community that really love doing this. I don't enjoy seeing this content, and a lot of other readers also are not enjoying this content. We talked a little bit about the cancel culture and the pile-ons. This one just breaks my heart. And I've seen a few this year where I'm just scratching my head going, what? Like, what? This is the author we're going after? Why are we going after this poor author? Somebody that has taken the time to create a piece of art. Okay, so here's the thing. The book that you're reading is a piece of art. A sculpture is a piece of art. A painting is a piece of art. And there's lots of paintings and art out there that, again, I don't necessarily enjoy, but it might be somebody's jam. Why are you yucking somebody else's yum? So, yeah, the cancel culture, the author pile-on, there needs to be accountability, right? But you can't say, well, if this author isn't perfect in every part of their life, then I cannot read them. I want to also have a trend that really needs to go away in 2026, books as being just disposable content. So we now have this thing where, people are reading books as fast as they can. They're skimming through it, they're rank it, and then poof, they discard it. And books by nature, I think, books need some patience. They need to, be read with a sense of wonder, literary lenses, critique. And you might be like, Colleen, I like fairy smut. And I like fairy smut too. But there's still an opportunity to read and learn, even if that's what you're reading. Because let me tell you, some of these books have interesting, like how the author thought about creating them, where the magic system came from, what kind of fae they're using. I mean, it all has to go through a creative process, right? So take the time to read the book. You don't have to read the book on 8.5 times speed if you're listening to it, or, skimming through it really, really fast. So for the podcast, what we're going to be doing is, looking at the books and seeing how the books maybe give us ideas about things that we never thought about. I don't know if this is you. I personally love a book that makes me GTS, and that would be Google that shit. If I read something in a book and I need to go and Google it, I'm actually pretty happy. Um, when I read book one of the Seven Sisters series, the first book, I was reading the first book. So it was set in Brazil, and it was set on an island somewhere. And as I was reading it, they were talking about building the Monte Cristo, like the big statue of Christ. And I kept thinking, that can't be true. So I was Googling stuff, and I was just amazed at how many of the elements of the story were truth, but they were so like stranger than fiction. I honestly didn't think they were truthful. And so it was really kind of fun for me to, be Googling it. So when I think about books, they're not disposable content. Even if you're reading that book that, books that we call fluff, right? I love a fluffy book because there's some times where I just want to go into a book. I don't want to have to think about anything else that's going on. And I just want to enjoy a really good story. And there's nothing wrong with that. So, instead of just doing this disposable content, read it, throw it, read it, throw it, read it, throw it. You don't even remember what happened in the book. You're just reading it as fast as you can. And then the last trend that I would like to see disappear is the sort of vilification, the you couldn't possibly attitude that people have when somebody reads a lot of books in a year. Here's the thing. If you read one book, you're a reader. If you read 50 books, you're a reader. You read 100 books, guess what? You're still a reader. You're a reader. Doesn't matter what end of the spectrum you're in. And you get people that are like, well, there's no way you could read 100 books a year. It's impossible. 100 books a year, is pretty not that hard. If you read 2 books a week, that's 104 books a year, right? So we have to stop saying that somebody that reads a lot of books, I saw a post the other day, and it was actually an author that made it. And I just was like, what are you doing? You write books. Why are you criticizing people? But it was basically like, if you've read this many books in a year, like you've got no life, and you're basically sacrificing everything else in your life just to sit and read books. Not so. I can read for a couple hours each night before I go to bed, and I can easily get through 2 books a week. It's not hard. And also, why does it matter to you how many books I read in a year? If I enjoyed a whole bunch of books, then you should be happy I enjoyed a bunch of books. So let's move away from that, shall we? And really, if you read one book, good. I am so happy for you, because here's the thing. You made the time and you prioritized that one book, and think of the enjoyment that book gave you. Think of maybe you had anticipation that you were like, I get to sit and read my book. There is nothing like I never understand why people judge somebody else's reading life. It's their reading life. Let them be. And for the people that read, one book to 100 books, guess what? You're all readers. There's no star from reading more books. They're just not. So let everybody do their thing. And, for me, I have a reading goal of how many books I would like to read in a year, but I don't set that goal as oh my gosh, if I don't make that goal, my life has just not been, productive for the year. I set that goal because it's just something fun for me to aim for. And I surpassed my goal this year, and I just giggle. I'm like, oh, I got past my goal. But there's no, book reading police out there. They're like, well, you read this book, which is a novella, so that doesn't count. No, it all counts. It all counts. Did you read it on your e-reader? It counts. Did you listen to it? It counts. Did you do an immersive read where you listened to it and read it at the same time? Guess what? It counts. It all counts as reading. So I can think of a lot of habits and hobbies that are less productive, and we don't have to shame those ones either, because guess what? I mean, if somebody chooses to work and at the end of their workday, they're exhausted and they decide the thing they want to do is watch TV, let them be. Let them watch TV. You want to watch 6 hours of TV a night? Watch it. That's what's bringing you joy. So let that be what brings you joy. So when I created Bookcraft, I'm not here to tell you what to hate. I'm not here to tell you what's good. We're going to have lots of conversations around books and reading and all of our authors and everybody joining in together to create something pretty magical. So before I close up for today, here's the thing. However you want to read, do it. But let's, in 2026, go for less cruelty, more curiosity, less performance, more care. And, bringing all of the sides together is what my goal is for this podcast. Because, as a debut author, when I looked at all the amazing book podcasts out there, there wasn't a space for people like me that are debut authors, for readers that are, readers that just enjoy reading. They don't have a massive social media platform. They just enjoy reading and they want to talk about reading. And there's lots of small publishers, self-publishers, small imprints. They get no airtime at all because they're not the big five. And I was talking to a gal the other day, and she works for a really tiny little publishing company. And she's like, I would love to be on your podcast because I have a lot to say. And so all of those people combined, I'm going to bring those all together. All of our books have stories. And then, of course, there's the stories behind the stories. They all deserve space. And my last closing statement is, however you love books, there's a place for you here. I'm excited for Bookcraft Season 1. I hope you're excited too. Thanks, everyone.